Today's show is brought to you by BarkBox.com. Get one free extra month of BarkBox at getbarkbox.com/amps.
Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that you won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show. With your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino.
Yeah, man. How about that? Yeah,
it's a good one. It's a pretty one today. It's a pretty one.
And we went. It was like the other day. It was like 30, and now it's like 100. My kids come in. They go, "Can you turn on the AC?" I'm like, "I didn't even have spring, man. Come on."
Exactly. I opened the windows for 30 minutes this morning. Now spring is over.
Yeah, done. Forget it. It's over. It's over. Hey,
wow. I
want to tell you something. And I want to tell you. I want to tell you something. No, right. I want to tell our fans, man. You know, you guys, the numbers are reflecting that you guys have been spreading the word. And I know we say it every week, and we're going to continue to say it every week. And we cannot thank you enough. But on top of that, this little piece on top of that, definitely go visit our webpage, ampsandaxes.com. And in there, you're going to see the banners right by the show. Shows are always there. Shows are always at the bottom, too. If you search a name, you'll actually get taken to the episode. It's pretty cool. So if you want to search Paul Gilbert, type in Paul Gilbert, and guess what? His episode comes up. It's pretty damn neat. Thanks to those guys over at Squarespace for that shit, too, by the way, because there was no way I'd ever figure that HTML out. But on the right-hand side is our sponsors, and these guys are really good dudes. And you hear the commercial that we ran for BarkBox. Now, BarkBox is, they're the treat company for your dogs. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to repeat the commercial because it just happened. But anyway, our announcer was her birthday today, so I have to do that because I'm legally bound. No, I'm
happy
just
birthday, Colleen.
It's happy birthday, Colleen. And but definitely go visit those sponsors because that kicks a percentage back to us. And I know we say this and it sounds like we're, whatever, but this thing does not go for free. Right. It goes for free to you, but it actually costs us money. And the only thing we ask is just put a little coal in the train so this thing can keep going down the road and we can keep bringing people like we do every week. And, that is what our plan is to just keep giving you guys this material. Right. And all we ask for a little bit is just throw some love towards our sponsors and everybody.
And tell your friends and your relatives and everything and tell them to check out the website.
Oh, yeah.
And that way, if hey, man, it's spring, I got to buy a new lawnmower. Buy it through Amazon.
Hell yeah, man. Hey, you'd be surprised what the hell they'll deliver from Amazon.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm waiting for the day that I can get like a liver. I don't even need a liver. I just would love to order like a liver and have it show up. That'd be cool as hell, wouldn't it?
Up with a drone. Just here's your liver.
Here's your hand. Here's an index finger. I don't know.
Yeah, it's spring. You need whatever you need. You need shears, lawnmowers, grill parts, whatever you need.
Let me tell you, man.
Go through the Amazon app.
The Amazon, real quick. Amazon was one of these companies, all they did was sell books. And they sold books cheaper than what you could actually buy the books for everywhere else. And I was like, there's no way they're making money. There is zero way that they are actually making cash. And somehow they've become what they've become. But the other side of it is you can do a ton of shopping down to food on Amazon now.
Yeah.
And, and without leaving your house, dude, time is the thing. You need to be jamming. You need to be slapping the bass, whatever it is. You don't want to have to get in a car or drive down to the local whatever and find out they don't have what you want.
And, the cool thing about it is you can go online, pull up our webpage, listen to our show while you're shopping on Amazon.
Look at that.
Man, it doesn't get any easier.
And all we ask is when you do, tell your friends about this show. Please tell us.
That's right.
Tell them that you heard it here first, man.
That's right, because hopefully there's always something that you hear first every day. Sometimes you hear the same thing from different people, as we're going to find out again today. Everybody reiterates some of the same things, but we always bring you, a fresh story. At least we try to. So we're going to do that again today. We're going to take a pause for the cause, and we're going to come back with our guest of the week, bassist for a couple of very cool bands.
It'd be easier to say what bands he's not a bassist for.
Well, that's not totally true, but you will enjoy this. So come back with us, and we're going to bring you the bassist whose name is Mr. Marten Andersson.
Hey, this is Nick Perry from Silvertide and the Underground Thieves, and you are listening to Amps and Axes.
For our listeners only, BarkBox is offering an opportunity to receive 1 free extra month. What is BarkBox? BarkBox delivers 4 to 6 natural treats and toys curated around a surprise theme each month for your dog. All edibles are made in the USA or Canada, and 100% of the products are tested on their own animals. When you go to order, tell them how big your dog is. Then choose a plan. 1, 6, or 12 months plans are available, and you can cancel at any time. Bark boxes are shipped free on the 15th of each month. And if your dog does not like something in the box, we'll send you something they'll love for free, because they're all about dog happiness. So to receive 1 month free, go to getbarkbox.com/amps. Again, that's getbarkbox.com/amps to receive an extra month of BarkBox for free.
Okay, and we are back as promised with our guest of the week, bassist Marten Andersson. How are you, Marten?
Hello. I'm good, man. It's good to be on, man. We finally connected.
Finally. Well, it's the wonders of technology.
Technology sometimes it's it can save a life, and sometimes it can cost a life.
Oh yeah,
because I'm sure
we're
if anybody
was in between right now.
Exactly. Well, I'm sure if there's anybody within a 10-foot radius, they were probably going to get a computer thrown at their head.
Well, yeah, that is for sure. I just did this one show this weekend that I'm co-producing and everything, and I would wake up and first of all, I get like 3 hours of sleep, but I would wake up in the morning and I would turn my phone on and it would be just going ding, 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 and it would be like 40 emails. I mean, you're waking up with anxiety basically. Yeah. So right. It's not all good. I get it. I totally get it, man.
So at least you get to turn it off. That's good.
Yes.
Yeah,
that is
I have
a great
to.
thing.
You get a few hours in,
Right.
Now, Jeff, you know me. I'm always with some kind of story, a little bit.
There you go.
I've been following Marten, or Marten. I've been following you for quite some time on Instagram, seeing a lot of posts. This guy, I mean, we've had some guys on that have played, a lot, right? Like they, tons of musicians, a lot of side guy stuff, if you want to call it, whatever, Sure. Marten is, he's the guy. I tell you what, if anybody ever wants to know how to make it in music biz, first off, they need to get a hold of you, Marten. And second, I'm thinking you want to get rid of 2 strings and pick up that bass, because there's a lot of employment out there, obviously, when it comes to that.
How many times have we said that, man?
Exactly.
Like, play bass, you'll always be employed.
Well, I always used to say, when I played with George Lynch, and I spent about 7 years with George, I think, in total, and people would go, well, what makes you so special? What do you think you could do that nobody else? Well, why are you playing with George? And, basically, why am I not having the gig and so forth? And I said, well, the truth of the matter is, I'm probably not the best bass player out there. Of course, I know for a fact that I'm not, but I'm a cool guy to get along with. I show up on time. I know the songs. I'm in tune, and he won't have a problem with me. There's multiple people out there, singers included, that show up and they don't know the lyrics, and the printed stuff out that falls down on stage during the show, and I mean I've seen it all. So
sure.
I guess that's kind of my key to being busy is that I'm a nice guy and I show up on time and I know the songs and I'm in tune for the most part.
228 episodes we've done, and that is the exact mantra that every guy that's working has said.
Yep.
Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Without a doubt.
What's the phrase, Mick? What's the phrase?
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Comes out time and time again. It's like, just be a nice guy, be easy to get along with, and know your stuff.
Done and done.
Well, a lot of these guys, whatever level you're on, they don't want issues. They don't want trouble. They don't want, singer doesn't have a driver's license. You got to pick them up, or great singer, but it's just like they're so busy that they want to make sure that they have a steady guy. And to tell you the truth, and you guys know this, you've done this so long, but you're on the tour bus with that person 23 hours a day, and you got to make sure that you get along, and it's a funny guy,
Yeah, you're not trying to stab each other in your sleep.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, a lot of times you have the guy that's super funny and that keeps the morale up. He can't play for shit, but he's a great guy to have around, and you want the guy to be around. It's like the hockey player that plays 2 minutes each game, but he keeps the morale up on the bus,
Yeah. There you go, man. Well, Jeff, I turn it over to you as we always do, and
okay.
I love this. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, this is fun. I love doing this. So, Martine, we're going to do what we always do with our guests. We're going to take a ride in the Wayback Machine and find out where Marten Andersson was born and raised and how you got into this wonderful, crazy world of music, man. So give us some history.
Cool. Yeah, I'm originally from Sweden, Stockholm. Was born in Stockholm, Sweden, and I guess from an early age, 12 years, from about 12, I was like, I want to be a rock musician, and I always that's what I set out to do. And I had sent a tape to Mike Varney when I was 16, and for what was he calling him?
Shrapnel.
Shrapnel. Well, it was Shrapnel, but it was called I forget what he called him. He had a column in Guitar Player magazine.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's he discovered Yngwie and all those guys, Paul Gilbert, and every single guy, And I had seen Yngwie in there actually. It was kind of a funny story, but I seen Yngwie in there, and I was like, he was 16, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to send one over. So, long story shorter, I sent the tape in. I did not get in the column, but I kept in touch, and I got in touch with, some of his bands. He was very helpful, and I came over at 18 to L.A., and I got the gig with Lizzy Borden at that time. That was, not really related to Mike, but, he kind of, that whole aspect pushed me to go to L.A., and I was basically just going to go over and check it out, and then that's, 30 years later.
It had nothing to do with Mike, but I'm sure he was, obviously connected outside of the Shrapnel kind of thing, so
he was.
Yeah, he has to be.
And that was 1987, right?
Yeah. It was 1990. I got the Lizzy Borden gig in 1991. So it was like 1990, I guess it was. He actually put me in touch with Kim Nilsson, which was a female bass player for a band called Phantom Blue, who was on Shrapnel Records, and then they ended up getting signed to Geffen, and she became my girlfriend actually at the time. And then when I came to L.A., and she knew the guys from Lizzy Borden, so that's kind of how the story was. But it's all ultimately through Mike Varney. Yeah. So
now you've mentioned since you were 12 you wanted to be a rock and roll player. Why? What spurred that interest in you? Was your family musical?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, I saw Kiss. There's many aspects of it. I mean, I listened to a lot of the British heavy metal stuff. I'm a big UFO, big Michael Schenker fan at the time, and I just loved that stuff from melodic standpoint. But then I also liked the showbiz entertainment sort of. You saw Gene Simmons hitting one string out there, but he's flying in the air and spitting blood, and I was like, that is so cool, So I there's not just one specific thing, but it's a combination, I guess, of both of them.
Cool. Well, yeah, yet another Kiss-influenced musician.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we say, was it Elvis, the Beatles, and Kiss?
And Kiss.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those,
Love them all.
Those seem to be the generational kick in the butts that inspirations that people got. It's like they saw Elvis, they saw the Beatles, they saw Kiss at 3 different generations, and man, it rings true so many times.
Oh yeah.
And I think, and you guys know this too, there's different aspects of when you grow up. You can maybe for a little time period you might listen to this person, and then you hear something else and you go, holy crap, you discover something else. So from a songwriting standpoint, Kiss is just was so cool, and maybe not from a musician standpoint at that point when you're listening to Yngwie and you go, what the hell are these guys doing? But now when you get older, you realize how really freaking hard it is to write a good hit song, right? I mean, and they have a million of them.
And the funny thing about Kiss is that they didn't have any radio play, man. I mean, Beth was their claim to fame that really put them on the radio, and then they had Rock and Roll All Night, but you didn't hear Kiss songs throughout the 70s or even really the early, I would say the early 80s, when they took their makeup off and did Lick It Up. That's when they, I guess that disco album that they did got some airplay. But all their original stuff, the real root stuff with Ace and all, that really never got the airplay, and yet that band was, they were playing arenas.
Like worldwide.
Yeah, it was literally, and I don't want to get off topic here, but it was 1975. It was the Kiss Alive album. And the story about that is just amazing. Like, they were not selling albums. And when they did Kiss Alive, it was like, boom. It was like Peter Frampton, man.
Yeah.
It's so strange. Could you imagine that, a live album doing it for you?
But they were such a genius in many marketing aspects, and I don't know if it was their manager. I can't remember his name now.
Yes, Casablanca guy.
Exactly. He was actually on a managed Lizzy Borden at one point.
Oh no!
And so we did a show for him actually at one point, but that's a whole different story. But I can't remember. He just passed a couple of years ago. But the guy was brilliant as far as, I mean, Beth was kind of an accident. You guys know that, right? I mean, how that came about. That was a B-side on a single. For starters, and someone just happened to flip it and just start playing it. But also in the beginning, they rented a limo for an hour and took a picture with it in it. They stood in front of a private jet, and then they just shot out those pictures, and all the promoters are going, holy crap! I don't know who these guys are, but I want to book this guy. So they, and that's before the internet, where you can check out Polestar and see what your attendance were.
Right.
So they kind of just fooled the whole business. What? Yeah, the promoter just going, holy crap! I don't know who these guys are, but I want these guys too, and that's sort of how they built the whole thing. It was a lot
of hype, but it worked.
Oh yeah,
and his name was Doc McGee.
No, it was not Doc McGee, actually. It was a guy before that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought it was him.
No, Doc McGee did, he did everybody,
he's
Bon Jovi and everybody. And he's Alice Cooper's managers, too. He was Alice Cooper's.
Well, give me a minute on the interweb here, and I'll find it.
It's bothering me now that I can't remember the guy's name. But
in the meantime, Martine, what was your first instrument, and how did you go about getting it? Did your parents buy it for you? Were they really interested in you following music, or?
That's one of the things that I'm trying to bring over here a little bit. Is they have it in Sweden. They have a really good after-school program. And I don't know if you guys know much about hockey or anything, but there's in NHL in the U.S. there's a million Swedish hockey players, and they always ask me, why is there so many Swedish hockey players? Because there's a freaking hockey rink in every corner of Sweden, and the government sort of pays for it. And the same thing is sort of with the musicians at the time. I mean, the Yngwies and everybody, the John Norums of the world, and even with In Flames and Sugar and all those bands, there's a great after-school type situation. I mean, there were rehearsal studios in my school that were open for free that you can use at any time.
Wow.
So paid for by the government. Of course, things have changed a lot over in Europe and in Sweden over the years since that time. That's a whole different subject, but 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 at the time, that's what so that's kind of how I got started. I had a rehearsal studio in my school, so I would basically finish up my school, and I would go downstairs and we would rehearse. It sounded like crap at the time, of course, but they were there, and it's enough to spark the interest. And you can get after school programs in America too, of course, but they're going to cost you a fortune.
That has changed too. It's changed as much here or more than it has there, I'm sure. But they used to have school music programs, and you used to be able to go do things, and all of the arts are just drying up in the schools. And
they're killing.
Mick and I have this conversation on the cast all the time, and we're so like, what can we do to get music back in the schools as a freebie? Because, like you mentioned, there's after school stuff. There's it may not be in the school, but you have like School of Rock and things like that. But you have to be able to pay for that, man.
And that's expensive, man.
People can't even pack lunch for their kids, and that's just not fair.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the, and we can talk about, I don't know how much time we got, but we just
have a lot of time. I want to talk about your charity at the end.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that the benefit for this particular benefit that we did goes to an amazing school in Orange County, California, Southern California, called the Orange County Music and Dance School, and they don't charge for lessons, and they don't turn anybody down. And as a matter of fact, they're looking for low income and minorities and so forth to get in there to talented that you got to meet the standard in some ways to get in some things, but they don't charge, and it's all a nonprofit. It's an amazing school, and I wish we had more of these, because we all know that there's a million, Michael Jordans or Beckhams or whoever in various cities around the world, right?
Yeah.
But they never get the opportunity, and maybe they get into crime, or that's the old saying, crime, or they get into, they never get the opportunity. So gangs, exactly. So it's just, it's a lot of them. I know a lot of people that probably are amazing musicians. I know you. I'm sure you do too. That unfortunately, for whatever reasons, never get the opportunity. So you're all right. We need some more of that stuff to keep going, especially these days when guitar sales is down and people are not playing as much as they used to. And we just saw Gibson filing for bankruptcy here recently, and it's just fortunate. I don't remember the person's name, but I read it today. It was a submission into our website, Jeff. I didn't even talk about it with you. The guy was like, "Hey man, great show." Yeah, it always starts off that way, then rapidly goes downhill. So the guy was like, he had said, "Hey, you're busting on EDM all the time." And, if he listens, and I don't really have to reply through an email, because, my answer to that is look, that it has a place. It's not going away. I don't expect it to go away or anything else. But this whole thing of, the musician part, we have a lot of people. There's a lot of kids walking around that have no idea that they possibly have this talent within inside of them. Right. And the problem that is starting to happen more and more is that there's really no encouragement. Guys like us, we encourage the hell out of people because we want to see this medium be forever. I mean, music is a integral part of life. And, when we walked around NAMM, we were saying to each other, like, man, this is like light. This is not like it was. And we were only, it was like 2 years we hadn't gone. It was a considerable difference in those 2 years. And it's kind of scary because it's like, look, you're going to have bad musicians. You're going to have great musicians. But as a whole, it's something that can kind of perpetuate and keep that thing going. That's what we want, and it's starting to get a little weird when you're not seeing that many people.
Right. And the other aspect of that is, people may not know that they have this talent because it may be difficult for them to get their hands on an instrument of any kind. But pretty much everybody has a computer. Even if you have a computer and you have something like GarageBand, you can start knocking out beats and things like that. And all of a sudden you're doing something on the computer. Okay, and that's great. Mm-hmm. But that's something that you have the opportunity to do right in front of you because most people have a computer, because you kind of need one nowadays.
Yeah.
But not most people do not have a guitar, a bass. Exactly. I don't care what it is, a horn, a piano, anything in their house. So, the limited access is as much a part of it as anything else, any other contributing factor. And we really got to try to change that. So, but that's a little off track.
Yeah, well,
no, I mean it is very true. I mean, from all ages. I mean, if you're a young kid and you know, it's scientifically proven that if you do music, you are going to advance in other subjects. That's not something that's made up, and especially math and things like that. Yeah. And also for elderly. I mean, elderly. Even if you're 60 years old and you play in a little cover band or you got a little hobby band on the side, I mean, it's so beneficial that from heart attack standpoint or anything.
Sure,
and people that do it actually live longer. So it just anyway.
Look at Keith Richards' hand. If he did not play guitar, I guarantee you that guy wouldn't be able to grab anything. Because I mean, his fingers are loaded. You can see it's like arthritis. His knuckles are 100%. Like huge. And how does a guy keep doing it? Well, it's because he's been playing guitar for 50 years, 60 years.
Probably 150 years now.
Exactly. I mean, he's been dead for 20, but come on.
I was going to say it's not just the knuckles, but that's It's amazing he's still with us. But hey, I'll take the heroes as long as we can because they're leaving us too fast, and they're not getting replenished, unfortunately, in some ways.
That's where guys like yourself, though, man, you're out there kicking it, and that's a beautiful thing.
So let's go back for 1 second. Right. You're speaking of school and music and everything, and the wonderful programs that they had. What was your first instrument? Was it bass or was it guitar?
No, I started out guitar actually. Okay. I did, and it was very short-lived. But I still play guitar. I write songs on guitar. I still do that to this day. But I'm not a shredder or any kind. I can't play solos or anything. I mean, more other than fake it from what I do on bass to guitar. But I did start out with the guitar, and then nice. I think I saw Gene Simmons, and I go, I want to do what he's doing.
It's 2 less strings. I mean, I can jump around some more.
Yeah, well, it was more of the, flying in the air and spitting blood and all that other stuff. And I was like,
and the chicks,
so
man.
Cool, and the chicks, yeah. I hadn't seen that part yet, but after we got a little older, then I was like, holy moly, And I remember that when I got the Lizzy Borden gig, I remember I was like, holy crap, I get paid for this? I got free booze, and I get girls, and I get to, play in front of people every night, and I get money? It's like, what the hell? I'll pay to do this.
Totally. So did you, when you were still in Sweden, did you have bands with friends of yours, or did you not play with people until you got...
Yeah, I played around Stockholm with a bunch of different bands, and they were all great musicians, actually. The standards, I think, of Swedish musicians were at the time, at least, very good. And I think, a lot of the bands that we've seen coming out of Sweden have been very talented, obviously, in the Yngwies of the world, but in other aspects of it as well. And dance music and God knows ABBA and all this other band, Roxette and everything else. So the standards are pretty high. And
I forgot about Roxette. ABBA's back.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, we'll see if it's a good thing or not. But I was a huge ABBA fan just because my parents listened to it. So it reminds me of my parents when I hear it.
That's nice.
Oh, that's
so
pretty cool.
What was the impetus to move to L.A.? Did you have a purpose, or did you say I'm going for it and just move?
Well, there was a couple of different reasons. I had sent in that tape, but it was also at about 16. I had sent out for various schools, music schools. Musicians Institute, and it was Berkeley and Boston, I believe. And I looked it over, and I liked the one in L.A. because I liked the palm trees and everything. And what happened is I missed the bus to my parents' house at like 2 a.m, and it was freezing cold. It was snowing. I remember this day like it was yesterday. I don't remember what I did yesterday, but I remember this day when I was 16, right? You know how that goes, right?
Of course.
So, like, where did I park my car? I don't remember, but I do remember that, So, anyway. So I missed the bus at 2:10 in the morning. I remember this. I had been out with my friends, so I was like 16, whatever I was, 16, 17, whatever. And I missed the bus, and the next bus was not until an hour later. It was 3:10, and it was freezing cold, and I tried to look cool, so I didn't want to wear like a big puffy jacket. I had like a little, biker leather jacket on with patches, so, Iron Maiden on, or Maiden, or Priest, or whatever it was on. You know what I mean? Trying to look cool. Black tight pants and Converse. And it's like 3 feet of snow, right? So, and I'm like, at that point, that moment, because I ran to try to catch the bus, and it drove away slowly. I'm like, I got there at 2:11, and I left at 2:10 in the morning. So I had to wait in that freezing snowstorm for like an hour, and I go, that freaking L.A. looks pretty damn cool. So I made the decision at that moment that, okay, I'm going to L.A. So, and my mom wouldn't let me go until I was 18, but that's a different story. But I had already made the decision at that point, at 16, that when I turn 18, I'm going to go to L.A. because not only for the musicianship, but for the weather.
Right.
Wow.
It doesn't snow there. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
So what did you bring any gear with you, or did you just come and with a couple dollars try to get set up in
I just brought a bass. I had one bass with me, and that was it, and one suitcase, and the classic stuff you always hear. That's exactly what happened. We were like 6 guys in one bedroom, and one plate to share, and everything that you think that people make up, it really, really happened. I slept on a sleeping bag for like a year, maybe like 10 months or something like that, until I got the Borden gig and stuff. But on the floor in the sleeping bag. But at the same time, we had a blast. Everybody that lived there, was partying every night and all kinds of fun stuff,
Absolutely,
so,
man.
Yeah,
but that's commitment. People have to realize that it just doesn't fall out of the sky. You got to have that kind of commitment in order for the good things to happen most of the time.
Well, you got to lose some in order to appreciate the win, right? So
there you go, man.
Yeah.
How did you get the Borden gig? How did that happen?
The what?
How did you get the Borden gig?
That was through Kim, the bass player from Phantom Blue there that I was telling you earlier that she had done some work with Lizzy, and she knew him well, and they were just ready to hit the road, and they needed a bass player. And she just happened to say, well, I'm kind of dating this Swedish guy. He's like young guy. He's 18, but he's very cute, and he's a great bass player. So they're like, all right, well, bring him down. And I actually did 2 auditions with them, and then 2 weeks later, I was on tour all over the U.S. and Mexico and all over the place.
Wow. That was pretty quick.
Yeah, it's just like super fast. And, at that time, I had listened to Yngwie and all this stuff, trying to figure out all this hard stuff. So, coming in playing, 3-chord Priest, Lizzy Borden kind of stuff was pretty easy for me at that time. I'm not putting it down in any shape or form, but so, I think they were pretty impressed that, I got the call, and 3 days later I had 15 songs down,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, man.
That's really cool. So what was your rig at that time? What was the bass that you brought with you?
It was a Fender bass. It was a Fender Jazz Bass Special, and that ended up being Duff's signature model after that. It's one of those basses.
Wow.
But at the time, they would just call Fender Jazz Bass Special. And I used a carbon amp and a cabinet. I think I just bought something cheap on Craigslist or something like that here in LA. At that time, it was like the Recycler newspaper or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and I just rocked that, and then soon after I got the Borden gig, I went down to ESP, and I knocked on the door basically, and I said, I just came here from Sweden, and I got this gig with Lizzy Borden, and for some reason the president of the company, it was only 2 guys there at that time. He goes, hey, give this kid a couple of basses, He saw something in me, I guess.
Wow.
And he did, and I've been with ESP ever since. So and now they're all over the world, and he's the president of the company. But at the time, there was just a little custom shop.
Look at that.
That's really cool.
That is some dedication too, man.
It was brutal at that point. I was like, I'm not going to take no for an answer, and it's just like, you can't just go knock on the door. And I was like, well, I'm just going to do it. What are they going to? If you don't ask, it's always going to be a no, right?
Sure.
So, it's pretty cool. It's a cool story.
Wow.
But I'm also very happy that the guy just goes, and I played some stuff for him, and they maybe, I don't know, I just, maybe he saw something in me that, and I was, that you got to give it out to Matt from ESP that at that time he actually gave, he saw something that he gave me the shot.
That is so cool.
Well,
yeah,
you're right. You don't know until you try, man. It's kind of worked.
Yeah,
it did. Yeah, in some weird, strange, odd universe, it did work.
Man.
So you and the Carvin bass rig went out with Lizzy, right?
Yeah. And you know what I had as a preamp? I had one of those bass Rockmans.
Oh, wow!
My preamp. That's all I had. I had a Carvin power amp, and I had a bass Rockman as an amp. That's all I had, because I didn't have any money to buy anything,
so it wasn't even a Carvin bass head. It was just a power amp.
Oh, it was just a Carvin power amp, yeah.
Jesus, that's really cool.
So I would put the little Carvin power amp on the cover, and then I would put the little bass Rockman on top of it.
Wow,
I love it.
That's awesome.
And I think I went through like 5 of them on that first tour, because they, first of all, they're so breakable at the time.
Yeah.
They were just so dainty, or
it's just a little plastic box.
Yeah.
It's a little
plastic box. Yeah.
I completely forgot that they made a bass Rockman.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was awesome. But Lizzy always used the covers on the amp covers way before anybody did. So he didn't even care, because like right now I'm rocking with Steelheart, and he always wants like 2 8/10ths and everything. He wants to look cool, which is I'm totally fine with. And he's one of those guys who wants to, he wants to bass really loud too, which is great, so just crank it up 2 8/10ths, But at the time, for Lizzy all these years, he had those covers to cover the amps. It says Lizzy Borden, the logos. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Scrims.
Yeah. I forget what they call them, but
scrims.
It's like,
I think
they're like amp scrims or whatever you call them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's
it
cool.
worked.
That's cool.
People would be blown away, take the scrims and there's a little Rockman there,
See, that's when it's all in the player, because you can play the red, That's a pretty cool example of that.
Hell yeah, man.
Wow.
I saw Yngwie one time in the music store, and he just grabbed a Strat off the wall and plugged it into whatever little tiny Fender amp or whatever. It sounded exactly like him. I mean, exactly. It was his tone, everything. It could have been a Wall Marshall. It could have been. Yeah. So I learned that pretty early on, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, where did you go next from Lizzy Borden?
Well, I played with him off and on for a million years, actually. We broke up for a few times, and I did some, I played with this guy, Jonas Hansen from Sweden. He had a band called Silver Mountain, and I did some solo stuff. I wrote a book about the music industry, how to get a record deal and those kind of things. I tried like everything, not because I wanted to brag or I wanted to be famous. It's just that I was just interested in everything. It's kind of like a kid who's like, let me try playing this, let me play with this thing, So it's just like I tried everything. I tried some acting. I tried like all kinds of fun stuff, right? And then I got the George Lynch gig, the Lynch Mob gig, and I ended up doing 7 years with George.
Wow.
That was fun too.
Had you graduated from the Rockman at that point?
I don't know if you ever graduate from that, but yeah, no, it was fun stuff. So I had a lot of fun, and he went through a lot of members at that point in Lynch Mob, and it's just. I know I was doing something right because we got along real well too. But 6-7 years with him, and every tour there would be a different singer, a different drummer, or whatever.
Yeah. And
which was kind of cool in a way because. You get to play with all these amazing people, Kelly Killing from vocals and Chaz West and Andrew Freeman. And I mean, there's all these different vocals and Benny Appice on drums did one tour with us. Patrick Johansson from Yngwie's band did one tour with us, and there was a lot of moving, revolving, open doors there. But it was always fun to see that I was that I was called back.
You were like David Ellefson.
Yeah, I was, I think. But it keeps going back to that. Don't be a dick, whatever you just said, Yeah,
man.
Like, know the songs and don't be a dick and show up on time. And
well, the difference there is that nobody can get along with Dave Mustaine.
I'm not even going to touch that one, brother.
Dave somehow Ellefson he figured out a way. He's got either a picture of him having sex with a goat or something, because he's the only guy that's lasted in that band all those years. I mean, everybody, that thing, it was like a revolving door on Megadeth, man.
Yeah.
And could possibly still be. Who knows?
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good, I mean, I know they went through some, I'm really good friends with Chris Broderick, and he spent some years with
oh, yeah.
Dave,
we had him on. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Great guy. I just played with him this weekend, as a matter of fact. And he, great guy, but he never said anything about him, anything bad, or, he's just never addressed it, and I never asked it either.
Yeah.
So,
no, I'm just busting balls. I mean,
I know you are. I know you are.
When Dave is the CEO of Megadeth, so it's like, if he doesn't, it's what he can do, whatever, right? It's just the bottom line is it's Dave Mustaine. That's Megadeth when it comes to it, and it like you said, it could be anything, but it's going to sound like Dave and Megadeth. And so, I mean, he does primarily most of the writing, I think, and maybe Ellefson, and hey, more power to him. Now, the one thing I wanted to mention, because Jeff hasn't said anything, Jeff, you've actually done stuff for George Lynch, right? Amp-wise, didn't you?
Yeah, he was. I did some amp work for him, but he was a Buddha Fat Man player for a while. He had some Fat Man pedals, and I probably did Waz for him too. As cool. Buddha, or maybe even before Buddha. Maybe when I was just modifying Waz, I might have started. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. When I was even before Buddha, when I was modifying Waz, I think he was playing my Waz.
Gotcha.
So
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, he's also one of those guys. It's just funny to me in some ways that it's almost like they're looking for that holy grail of sound, and maybe it's a hobby thing. I don't know, but it's like using the plexi or trying this or it's always an ongoing battle to keep finding that what you can't have or something. I don't know. It's very interesting. Like. Different tours, different type of gears. And, I don't know. Maybe he's settled down now, but it's just it's very interesting to me.
I think they have a clinical term for it. It's called being neurotic. Because like Eddie Van Halen, right? Eddie, he's like, oh yeah, we're going to be coming out with a different amp. And it's like, well, wasn't this the thing? And he's like, yeah, but it's not exactly the thing that I heard. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
You're Eddie Van Halen. Yeah. Do you really have to worry about that anymore? But it's probably something that's in that brain, man. He can't let go,
It is, yeah. And, it's very interesting in some ways how these guys do it. And I guess we all, in some ways, we always, new things come out and you try it and you like it or don't like it or you move on. But it's just, like you said, it's very neurotic in some ways, or whatever the word is that I'm looking for. That these guys, it's like they're looking for that treasure that they can't find, and they just keep looking and looking.
Yeah, it's an obsession.
Yeah, it is an obsession. Yeah.
That you're trying to find something that is not describable. It's like it's this movement of air, and how do you
just know it when you. Hear it, and even more so when you feel it.
Exactly.
It's just and if it brings you more inspiration,
then it's working.
All the better.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody should go searching for gear just because there's something new. But if there's something more that you're looking for, or something different that you're looking for, then okay, go check it out. Don't check it out just because it's new, and then you got to buy it just because it's new. You're never going to settle down that way. You got to find what you're comfortable with.
God, no.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so let's talk a little about Steelheart. what's that all about? And then I want to get into your charity.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm rocking with Steelheart for the last couple of years now, and we've been doing pretty steady, and we're getting ready to go to Sweden Rock here, which we're playing with Ozzy and Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, so I can't wait to do that. It's going to be great, and we have a great time slot, too. I believe it's like maybe 5 o'clock on Saturday, which is like... That's when people are pretty drunk. They're starting to get drunk. People showing up, and you know what I mean. Like 5 o'clock on a Swedish summer day. It's just perfect. You know,
they're happy and they're happy and not passed out yet.
Exactly. Awesome. So it's a great time slot. So we're getting ready to do that, and
that'll be with a different guitar player for Priest, right? That'll be the guy that's filling in for Tipton.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So I'm not sure if they play the same night as us, but we're on the main stage at 5 o'clock, nice. and then it's really cool. It's a big upswing. I mean, Millie in Steelheart always had the thing in Asia. I mean, we were over the summer and we did South Korea, and it was like we were the headliner. It was 50,000 people. That song "She's Gone." I don't know if you guys know it, but it was basically been like the number one karaoke song over there for the last 10 years or something.
Really?
Jesus.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, he can't even walk on the street there.
Wow.
They don't give a crap about me, of course, but it's like I got a scattered one autograph here and there because they couldn't get to Millie, but you know what I mean? But it's pretty crazy. It's like he's humongous over there. I mean, he's on the Idol show over there, and they're doing his songs. And
isn't that crazy?
And,
wow.
Yeah. Well, you got to go where the target market is,
Yeah.
You got to go where the
for
market
sure.
is.
We have this conversation all the time because, we see things here, and sometimes, we kind of walk around with some blinders on. We don't look, it's kind of hard to look over in Europe. And, but then we hear things like this, and who is it?
All the time.
Pete Thorne. Pete Thorne plays with some guy in France that is like the biggest thing since like Elvis in France. And they will do a show for 100,000 people, and they'll sell it out 3 nights in a row. And we're like, and Tony McAlpine is the other guitar player. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
Never heard of this guy.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah, never heard of it. Yeah. But even with Borden, with Lizzy Borden, we used to go, Europe was in South America was a huge market for us. And
oh, yeah.
we would travel, we did like 24 countries in Europe, and we would do maybe 10 shows in the States all year.
That's crazy,
right,
isn't it, man?
It's just like, we got it, we played in Spain. I remember we did one show. It was like, we were between Journey and Dream Theater or something,
Really?
Wow, it was like crazy, They paid us a ton of money, and we were like top billing, It was like, it was a Motley Crue, I think Journey and us and Dream Theater and us, and we were over Anthrax even at that, that festival. It's like,
that is nuts, stuff. Man.
Here in America, you can't even get arrested if you wanted to. So.
Yeah, and it's so funny, Mick, because you mentioned EDM a while back. It's like EDM is very big all over the world, as well.
Oh yeah.
But but rock and heavier music still seems to be as big.
Oh yeah.
Like, what the hell is the difference?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a few different things, and make me sound a little dated here, but they still kind of pass down the music down to the brothers and sisters younger, and like we used to do here. You know what I mean? You pass down the records when you go to college or something. You go here you go. And they still kind of do that as far as the music. It's not just what's hip at the moment on playing on TV or it's I don't know what it could be at the moment, Lady Gaga or Beyonce or whatever, and that's the only thing that's cool to listen to. Yes, they listen to that, but they can also listen to Iron Maiden at the same time because it's a cool thing to do,
Yeah.
So, and I see some of the fans over there. They're super young, like they're like 15 and stuff, and you go, holy crap, It's like
that's
so cool,
what I want to see here.
Yeah,
that's
man.
what I want to see here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating.
It is very much so.
So you mentioned, the large stages that you're on now. Are you in ears? Is everybody in ears? Nobody in ears?
Well, I played around with all that stuff actually. One Lizzy Borden tour, we had no amps on stage at all.
Wow.
We just did, and we got the idea when we saw Queensryche at Bangerhead Festival in Germany. It was really bizarre because we were on the side of the stage. and basically all you heard was drums, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
They all had in-ears, and you hear the crackling on the stage from them moving around, almost.
Oh, man.
In between.
Wow.
Right. It's really, really bizarre, right?
Yeah.
And they're all like, I think there was the Stone guy, whatever his name is, he was using a tiny little amp or something. So you have like basically one amp and the drummer, and the rest is just complete silence. So we're like, and Lizzy, going, okay, well, this is a good idea because, I'll save my voice and I don't have to, So we tried it. And with mixed results, because sometimes when you play clubs, for example, the first 5-10 rows, the PA sometimes is behind the 5-10. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So all they hear is drums, really.
Yeah, it is bizarre.
That didn't work out too well, but there were certain aspects of it that we liked, that I liked. We all actually had our own mixes. We had little 4-channel mixes, each of us in the band, so I can do my own monitors throughout the show, which is really cool. So if I wanted more vocals, or I wanted, so each guy was depending on the sound guy, and each guy can do a separate mix. So that's Billy Sheehan actually gave me that advice because that's what they were doing, and I was like, okay, well, let's try it. And certain aspects of it, but I miss feeling the bass in my body and stuff.
Yeah.
I just miss it. So. In some ways, I'm still, there's a lot of shows that I don't do in ears still. I go back to the monitors because, especially those festival shows, because I don't know. There's something about feeling that bass in your body, standing in front of that amp and just hitting that E, and you just go, you know what I mean?
I saw a device the other day for bass players that use in ears that they don't have anything on stage, and it's this pack that sits on your strap. And your guitar goes into it, and it actually gives you that punch when you hit the string.
It vibrates your body.
Really?
Yeah, it vibrates your back. And I thought, or you could just throw a cabinet
send that over to me. I'd love to check it out, man.
I'll have to find it. I definitely will. Yeah. But I just thought it was like, well, that's so weird. Now we're simulating the punch when we could just, throw the 810 up there and
you feel it, but you can't hear it. You feel it, but you can't hear it. It's bizarre. So do you use different rigs for different gigs? I mean, is there backline and is there just virtual?
Well, I am not currently endorsed by anybody, and that's by choice, actually. For example, this weekend I used EBS amps for the. And I have two. I will be in Sweden Rock. I will have a big wall of EBS because I use their pedals, actually.
Cool.
So they're really great, and they do have some great amps, but a lot of fly-ins. Obviously, you cannot get what you want, especially when you go to third world countries kind of situations. So I just felt it's not fair to go in at this moment, at least, to go in a partnership with, for example, EBS, when I cannot play them exclusively. All of a sudden, I'm this EBS guy. And I'm all over the world with Ampegs, because they always have Ampegs no matter what. So, so to answer your question, I use mainly I use Ampegs and I use EBS whenever they're available. But so it's the 810 classic stuff that I use. I use a couple stacks of those.
Nice.
And I split the signal sometimes. Most of the time I do. So I have one that just basically straight in, just a ton of bass on it. And then it's kind of the Billy Sheehan setup, but not so fancy what he's doing, splitting mics and doing all this stuff, 3 inputs and 2 wirelesses and all that stuff. I mean, I know there was a time when he played with Steve Vai where he had a 3-stack setup. He had one for low end, one for mid range, and one for high end. And especially when you do fly-ins, I noticed if the sound guy doesn't know what he's doing, he's cranking that high end, and there's no low end, for example. You're doomed. You're dead in the water. So. You kind of have to know when to do this and to do it the right way. So, and
that's so cool.
If you keep going on that conversation, which I can talk about forever, but I know Doug Pennick from King's X, he actually has a mixer where he does the same thing where he kind of splits it and. He used to do. I don't know what he's doing now, but then he actually gives one signal to the sound guy where it's all already mixed, sort of, in his little mixer. That way, there can't be any issues,
Yeah, he has his own. Amp head now by.
Now he does. Yeah,
Tech 21. Right? Yeah.
We listened to that show.
That thing was crazy.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I haven't really checked it out, but I know you can. It's a 2-channel type scenario, so you can actually blend two channels.
Yeah, he does some kind of craziness with that. And there was a guy playing, and we were like, "My God, that thing was ridiculous, man!"
Yes, it sounded great. It
it was beefy as hell.
Yeah, I like to check it out. Actually, I haven't got that far yet, but it's definitely it'd be cool to check out.
So when you go no backline, just in ear. I don't know if you still do that, but were you just using pedals straight into like a DI and out?
Pretty much, yeah. We don't. That was with Lizzy Borden, and we only did it one tour, but
Okay.
I would just use some EBS pedals. I used their DI box, and I used some distortion pedals and stuff like that, and that was just straight out into the PA after that. And mixed results. And part of me, it's like, well, it's kind of nice, coming back to the hotel room without your ears are falling off and ringing for constantly.
But there is something about that.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, but at the same time, it just wasn't rock and roll to me,
Yeah, I hear you. I imagine that would take a lot of getting used to. And okay, well, that kind of brings us full circle. Speaking of rock, let's talk about from classical to rock.
Yeah,
charity.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back a little bit to what we talked about earlier about education in school and so forth. We did a concert about 2 years ago, and we had got knowledge. I'm good friends with these two classical players, Yutan and Stan Sharp. Yutan is a famous Chinese violinist who plays on everything, like L.A. Phil over here and the Hollywood Bowl Symphony, and plays on like 5,000 soundtrack. Every movie you ever heard, she's on it. Same thing with Stan Sharp. He's a cello player, and these guys play with Aerosmith and Hart and everybody there is. And I'm friends with them, and we found out that basically it was a bunch of schools live in the same area that has not the music education is funded locally by parents, and also physical activity too, like PE teachers and stuff. So we found out that the state had cut funding for that. There was no music, being taught in the schools that we heard about. So we're like, hey, well, let's see if we can get, do a little concert here, and see what we can do with it. And we did. We put something together, and I called up some friends, and we did it together with the Stone Temple Pilots and Chester Bennington, and it was a great concert. It was a really good. It was, Gary Wright. I don't know if you remember that guy, but he wrote Dreamweaver.
Dreamweaver.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Hell
He
yeah.
came on, and Stone Temple Pilot actually backed him up. And, they played his whole set pretty much, with Gary Wright. So it's really cool seeing, Robert DeLeo playing Dreamweaver with Gary Wright. That alone was just cool,
That is cool.
But, so we did that. That was the first one, and that's sort of how it was born. It was called From Classic to Rock at that point, and that was the first one. And people got a little confused. They go, well, when they saw the name, they were, well, what does that mean, classic rock? Because they,
right.
they just saw classic and they saw rock, and what does that mean, classic rock? So the next one we ended up doing. And if I can go back for a second, basically what happened is that we made $50,000 after all the expenses and everything for that concert, but it was also the awareness of it, and people they got a bunch of donations and stuff from other people. So it wasn't just about trying to make as much money as humanly possible. It was just the fact that people had no clue that these programs, PE and music and arts and things, had been cut in school. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of it was bringing awareness to it, sure. And that's a similar thing to this weekend too. Is for the OCMD school. It's not so much about trying to get as much money as possible for this school this weekend. This is more about saying, hey, this school is available and it's out there, and a lot of people don't know that it's out there. So it's not just all about fundraising. Of course that's a big part, but it's awareness. Branding. So
yeah. Now awareness is key, because it's funny that you said not a lot of people know that the funding has been cut from school. That's kind of shocking to hear. It's like people really need to realize that.
I know. I think people live in their bubbles, in some ways.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. You get through work and you got to do what you got to do to get through to your family. But
it's true.
It's unfortunately that's, people had no clue. But that's how it got started. And then we say, hey, we heard about this school, and they're like, we had a meeting with them, and they say, hey, you want to, let's do something. And we're like, oh, let's kick it up a notch. And they had super talented kids, full orchestra, full choir. So, it took a lot of work. We've been working on this. I'm actually glad we're not on Skype camera doing this together, because I haven't slept for the last 3 weeks, basically.
Man. Oh, man.
So it took a lot of work, and we made a lot of calls and things, and then we got a lot of amazing artists. I mean, like, Nancy Wilson and Randy Jackson. All those guys are contributing their talent and their time, and they're not asking, for money. Some compensation for, cover their tech and, those kind of things. But, there's, not, Nancy Wilson fees, or Johnny Resnick's fees. They're all being very, sacrificing for the cost, so to speak. So, it was actually an amazing concert. It was just absolutely amazing.
How long did it take you to put that roster together and to get a date that works for everybody?
I think we've been working on it for like 9 months, I think, in total. And basically what we did is there's been a lot of contributions on many levels. We had Nathan Wong, which is a famous movie composer. I mean, he all the Jackie Chan movies, everything. Mm-hmm. He actually wrote a score specifically for this. So we actually have it from classical to rock score, a theme song, an overture, if you will.
Wow.
And this guy, he doesn't get out of bed for less than $300,000. It's like John Williams. He charged $1 million to even look at you.
Yeah.
So so this guy, because of Utah and Stan Sharp's connections, he came in and said, I will write a score for you. So,
wow.
It's pretty cool. So it's just like, so it's just contributions from every level, I guess you can call it.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That's really amazing.
And the cool part is too, when you get the kid. I mean, these kids are amazing. I mean, these students. I mean, the middle school, their high school. I mean, I was just a drooling fool drinking beers, looking at chicks when I was, 15 and stuff. These guys can do, overtures, and it's just amazing. We're doing bolero, and we're doing Mars, and we're doing all kinds of cool classical stuff, and they're just killing it, right? But the cool part is also the parents get involved when the kids are involved.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
You automatically get that whole aspect of it, too, and they're out there helping out, promoting the cause and trying to get the awareness out there and doing what they can do because the kids are involved. So
that is quite awesome, yeah. That is quite, and it's I'm so happy that you can get such high-level people to give a shit about music and kids in schools, and and they probably do, most of them probably do. But this gives them the avenue to do something about it, that somebody else has already put in front of them and done the groundwork. And it's like, okay, you don't have to start an organization on your own. You don't have to spend a lot of time. Just give us a little bit of time, because we've already got the infrastructure in place, and it will go a long way. And that, man, good on you. That is so great.
Yeah, I mean,
those people don't have a lot of time. They don't have a lot of time, but the time that they have can be, used to its fullest by somebody like you and the organization or of people that I'm sure you're working with to put on something like that. That is awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, it's a team effort, though. It's a lot of people involved, and
sure.
It's just and the list of artists that we had. It just Millie from Steelheart, the singer from Steelheart, Chas West, and Monty Pittman from Madonna, and I mean it's just, and Chris Broderick, of course, and I mean and behind the scenes people. There's just so many amazing people, and everybody just showed up and just delivered. Wow. It's pretty damn cool to see, and it's my first time playing with a full orchestra too, so it was pretty mind blowing. I mean, we're doing Stairway to Heaven, and we do full orchestra and a choir, and Kashmir and a bunch of cool stuff. So it's just like, hey,
that's pretty neat. Now, I got a question about that, because I've heard other musicians talk about this, and Yngwie was one of them. He said that they're always like a half a step behind or something. Like the timing is a little bit off. It doesn't come in right away like tight bands do. And he said it threw him at first, but then he was back in the groove real quick. He just had to kind of anticipate that whole thing. Did you notice that, or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was really, my conductor for the last, 25, 30 years, whatever long I've been doing this now, so it has been the drummer, obviously, in many ways, right? Because that's the guy you lock in with and everything. And all of a sudden, you have a drummer that's looking at the conductor. And the conductor, it's a weird thing it took me a little while to get, you're exactly right, because, his gesture is, in a certain, when a drummer hits, you hit, and that's a note, but, the conductor goes down and up a little bit, you know what I mean? So
sure,
they hit on the upswing, so you're really like, either you look like a complete fool or you're behind yourself, because you're like, I'm just going to wait, and then by the time you're there, they already hit, so it's just, it definitely, between us and the listeners, I don't think I ever worked this hard on music in my life as I did on this concert this weekend. And one of the reasons is I'm not really a good sight reader. I don't really know music, so I have to memorize all this stuff. These guys, classical, cats, they just put this stuff in front of them and they just play it. But, you got a guy like me who's an old rocker who just plugs in and go and doesn't read music really, so it's just like, oh my God, it took a lot of work. When we did a 10-minute medley of classical stuff.
Oh my God. Wow! And you had to memorize that. That's
I had to memorize. I had some cheat sheets, but I'm like they're laughing at me because there's a certain part of it. I named them different things. Like one I called the Scooby Doo part, because it sounds like Scooby Doo. It's like so I know what would be coming. But everybody's just laughing their asses off on this kind of stuff.
Well, you don't have to feel too bad because my old guitar teacher, Vince Corson. Hi, Vince, because I just saw him the other day. He was telling me, he said the classical guitar guys, they don't sight read. He goes, they memorize everything because, they got both hands usually fully involved and they can't flip pages like everybody else. And, when you have a ton of parts, usually that guy will be the guy or they do it solo, so they have to memorize it. So you don't have to feel too bad.
That's a good point. Yeah, I should have asked Chris Broderick about that because, he has a master's in classical. And he performed an amazing Paganini piece with one of the OCMD students. That
guy,
which was
you talk about range. And I don't mean to cut you off, but you talk about range. Chris Broderick has got crazy range because he will do the most just raw classical piece you've ever heard, Jeff. And then he does Acts of Defiance, which is just the heaviest thing you've ever heard. Literally one end of the spectrum to the complete other end. And that guy can cover it, man. And God, he can do stuff with 8 fingers that most of us can't even do with 4.
This is the level of talent of a guy like that.
Yeah,
12.
Backwards.
We need 12.
It's
okay.
backwards, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Never mind. Look, it's been a long day.
That's right.
Yeah,
and
I'm sure talented guy.
I'm sure it's been a very long day and weeks for Martine too. So
we have to.
We're gonna thank you for being on with us, and we're gonna let you go get some rest. Hopefully you can. At this
There's
point,
no rest for the wicked because on Sunday I'm playing the Ronnie James Dio.
There you go.
It's a charity for the Ronnie James Dio Foundation. So I'm gonna go up and rock with those guys, and it's from
Did you know Ronnie or?
I met him before. I met him at Bangor Head, and I just said hi to him, and I shook his hand, and just.
I heard he was the most charitable guy out there.
Super nice guy. He was very friendly, and I was very surprised how short he was. Actually, I was like, how does a guy like that with that, got the pipes like that? And I was more starstruck, to tell you the truth. It was more like I just want to shake your hand and say hi, And he's like, oh, very nice, and said who I was, and he's like, oh, okay, yeah, very nice bands, trying to impress him by saying I play with Lynch Mob and Lizzy Borden, right? It's like he's like
I play with Tony.
I'm one of you guys. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like it's just just cool. More like a blabbing fool at that point. But it's more of shaking his hand. Yeah, it's just nice to say I met the guy. So it's just.
Wow. I heard he was very charitable. I heard that people didn't know this about him because he never boasted about it, but he gave millions of dollars to different charities and stuff.
That's what I heard too. Yeah,
like unknown too. Like it wasn't like, hey, Ronnie James Dio just wrote a check for like $1 million. It was like, hey, $1 million just came in from some unknown guy. Like he didn't want that a correlation. He just wanted to do what he did, and then of course, you know, the whole cancer thing with him was like crazy. It was like, you know, he got sick and didn't even know why he was sick. And who were we talking to? Jeff, was it Bjorn? I think it was Bjorn England. Wasn't he the bassist for him when he got sick?
I don't know. He's the bassist in the band now, at least. He's a good friend of mine, actually.
It gets so crazy with this. But anyway, he was sick, and they said that they knew something was wrong because he had never been late for a rehearsal. And this one day he showed up late, and then he couldn't even really do anything, and he went to the hospital and found out that he had bad news.
Yeah. Well, I have a similar story now. We got to go, but my partner in this whole from classical to rock situation, it's very similar. And the reason I bring this up is maybe we'll talk about it and someone will go get tested. But the cello player I mentioned earlier, and my partner in this, my co-producer and my co-founder of this whole from classical to rock, he got a little back pain and he had acid reflux. He's like, man, this is really weird. You know, I've been having back pain for a long time, and you know, it's kind of an acid reflux thing going on. He went to the doctor in June last year and found out that he has pancreatic stage 4 cancer.
Jesus.
And I know, man. And,
what the hell?
And all he had was, you know, everybody got a little acid reflux and back pain, right? As you get, especially if you get a little older, right? I mean,
gotta leave now.
You know what I mean. My point is that, you know, I'm throwing up as we speak, for God's sake, you know.
Wow.
But you know what I mean? Like, and he's on some experimental stuff right now, and you know, and it's a really hard thing for his family, and unfortunately, he could not play on this concert. You know, he was there and everything, and he's involved as much as he can, but he was not able to play. And but my point is, you know your body better than anybody else for the most part. So if there is signs, man, go out and you know check yourself. Go to a doctor, man, for God's sake, you know. Yeah. And you know, especially guys too. We're all like trying to be tough, and you know.
Well,
like,
you know,
nothing going on here.
Life has a tendency to get in the way, especially if you're really busy. And but you got to take that second to kind of slow down and go, this isn't right. Not just go, I'll be all right, I'll shake it off. It's like, no, because a friend of mine, and actually a friend of ours, Jeff, Bob, Sarah Fleischer's husband, Sellers, he got brain cancer, and I mean, it took him quick. But there was this whole period of time that led up to that if he would have maybe addressed it, because he was getting bad headaches. And he just thought, you know, he was a lawyer, and he just thought, you know, stress and just chewing Advil like they're free. And next thing you know, they're like, maybe 2 months if we're lucky, you know. And it was like, God Almighty. And you know, that kind of thing. It's like colon cancer, man. You just go get scanned. You know, look, it sucks for a little bit, but you'll be happy if you don't have to die like Steve Jobs.
Exactly, man. It's what a waste, you know. Just do it, man. I agree. Just go. You know, if you feel that something's wrong with you, go out in there and have it checked eventually. You know,
it's old talk with Mick and Jeff.
I know.
Back in my younger days.
Back in the day.
That's right.
Amps and colon podcast.
That's beautiful, man.
There's the new one, Mick. There's the new one.
There you go. Yeah, that's going to be on the beginning of the show.
Of the colon.
This is Marten Andersson, and you're listening to Amps and Colon. Come on, man. I'll do a little spot for you.
There you go, man. That's beautiful. All
right, gentlemen.
Hey, do you have a website before we let you go?
Yes, I sure do. It's www.marten, and that's MARTEN.cc. No .com or anything. It's
gotcha.
It's one of those new domain names.
Okay.
So it's MARTEN.cc.
Okay, that's going to live on our page, on your show in
perpetuity.
Awesome.
That's right. And when it goes out to the archives, it'll still be there, but definitely everybody go check it out. And what a nice guy, man. It's been a little bit of a game of tag with us, man. This thing actually got perpetuated over a year ago, didn't it? Me and you were
I was trying to avoid you guys as much as I could, but I guess we couldn't make it work any longer.
I just kept bugging him.
Even the technology issues today wouldn't work. So
yeah, see?
Well, gotcha.
Yeah. He was like, if I just keep blowing them off, they'll just stop.
Yeah. No, it's all good. Now we're connected and we're all good. So
yeah, man.
Just anytime you want me to come on, I'll be on. So
absolutely. We'll definitely have you back on. I'm sure you got more stories than most guys even walking.
But thank you for taking the time today, because I know you've been really busy, and hopefully you can go get a little bit of rest before you got to go out and make some beautiful noise again, man. So thank you very, very much. Good luck to you. Safe travels. Good luck with the project, and raising money and raising awareness. It's badly needed. So thank you for doing that. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys, and I'll see everybody out there with the Steelheart or from Classical to Rock. So just don't just come up and say hi. It's all good, man.
Awesome.
So thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And there you have the story.
Yeah, what a nice guy. And you could tell he was tired, man. You could hear it in his voice.
Well, he perked up quite quickly.
Yes.
But I didn't even get the tired part myself. But
I
know what we were tired from. We were tired from the technical problems. That's what he was tired from.
I wish I could share that with all the listeners, because it would be like, what the hell were they doing?
What sunspots? What? I don't know.
No, just the horrible.
Position of the moon. I have no idea.
God, that was crazy.
Anyway,
man.
But there you go. So
yeah,
I mean, another guy just moved here from a completely different country.
16?
16, and moved to the right place and at the right time, and
played the right instrument.
really put the nose to the grindstone, and live the quote unquote air quotes dream.
Yes.
Which is six to the floor. Each with your own sleeping bag, but that's what you do, and it's got him to this point where
he wasn't a dick.
That's true. It's not a dick. It's
kids and other guys out there, like I say, right? Like we always say, we're saying this, and we're giving you. Look, this is why we do this, because we're giving you the opportunity to kind of bypass those shortcomings that you have to find out on your own. We're introducing you guys that you may have never heard, but they're telling you the exact same thing. That's the irony behind this whole thing. Just don't be a dick.
It's not us saying it. It's everybody else.
Exactly.
So, check the ego.
Yeah.
And just be a team player.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
That's right.
That's it.
That's the way.
There you go.
It's a whole fucking world is built. Anyway. So until next time, my friend.
That's right, because we're going to tell you the same thing next time.
I'm Mick Marcelino, and you're...
I'm the reiterating Jeff Bober.
That's right. And we're always saying...
Onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter @AmpsandAxes. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage ampsandaxescast.com. Thanks for listening.